going to wait to see if it's streaming. I'm gonna stay here for 1 hour and a half. And I'm going to study methods today for both Python and JavaScript. I think I'm gonna use ChatGPT and look at the documentation. And I'm gonna do this to make the next video. I have to remake a portion of a video that I just recorded because for some reason I confused Node.js with a package manager. So the first time I said that, and then I decided to redo everything. So I think I'm gonna do that after the stream. JavaScript implementation. I think I'm gonna put both of them side by side. The first ones that I'm gonna talk about are gonna be map and filter probably. But there's a bunch of that I don't remember or that I don't know exactly how it works or I haven't used it before. And I think I'm gonna do array ones first, then strings, and then object methods. I wonder if I should separate them though, because it's gonna be a lot of methods, I think. Did I start the timer? Yeah. It's quite annoying. I think it's probably because they want my data. Some time ago I was having problems and then I had to, as I was figuring out, I ran across, oh, this is the video, the last video that I'm editing, that I made that I'm editing now. I have this one I have functions as well that I haven't uploaded. Then this one is the one that I'm editing now. And this one, I gather some information, and I'm just gonna talk about environment variables, so I don't think it's worth spending time on stream on that, because it's gonna be a simple video. I'm just gonna explain that environment variables are the bridge between the operational system and the programs, and that a lot of the times you're gonna need to put things on the path using the environment variables so that you can access commands on the command line, special commands on the command line. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because the previous video is about package managers and libraries. So I'm gonna explain, because in the beginning, this was a big thing that I didn't know how it worked. It was weird to me that I always wonder how and actually there's still a lot that I have to research about this. But yeah, I think after I'm done with all the videos, I might do more videos about that, but because it is related to the code of how people create special keywords that allow you to run commands, and I didn't know how that works. But the way that they do it is just they program processes inside of a programming language. So they create processes and close processes, and then they build a bunch of codes that attaches meaning to those words. It's like pretty much very similar to the way that compilers work, that you're just putting a bunch of code and then you create meaning on that word based on all the code. And I didn't know in my head that I didn't understand that this connection between the operational system and the processes, and that the way to make the commands is just to put that, you make the code and then you put the executable for that code in the environment variable, and then, but it's still not very clear to me. Maybe I should study that now as well, because how are you connecting if you're putting the path? But the thing is that I think this is going to be a hard thing to study, and I don't want to lose a lot of time because I want to make a bunch of videos fast so I can focus on other stuff. I have to finish the portfolio that I'm working. I actually don't think I'm gonna do anything else. Or maybe some stuff with NFTs, but the stuff that I had to do with the wallet is already done, so I think I'm gonna deploy that on Versal. And I'm not gonna add the database because I realized that if by adding the database is not gonna be better than having the thing to send emails, because yeah, I think it doesn't make sense and it's just a portfolio. But I wanna do a blog as well, so I wanna work on that. But yeah, as far as I understand, if you put things on the environment variables here, you have to put the executable, the path to the executable. So I don't understand this connection of how do. I guess the executable has the code. Yeah, that makes sense. That's the connection actually. But it would be interesting to dive deep into the source code of Node.js, React, things like that, so that I understand the actual code that that creates the meaning for the words. But it's not that difficult actually. Yeah, I forgot what I was talking about. Yeah, I was talking about the Windows stuff that I had some problems, and then I was trying to figure out. Then I came across this script. It's called Tron, and it reboots the system. And in this process, they disable the telemetry from Windows, which is pretty much disabling the data gathering from them. So I'm not really sure if that's the reason why I'm getting this warning now, or if it's just an update that they did on Windows. Yeah, so now I'm gonna do this stuff here. I'm gonna put to JavaScript, Python on the left, and then JavaScript on the right. And I'm going to put a method, the method for each one. I think that there might be some methods in JavaScript that don't exist on Python and vice versa, but whenever that's the case, I'm just gonna leave it blank. Maybe I'll put in red when it doesn't exist and in green when it exists. And I wanna get all the methods, or not all the methods, but the methods that I think are the ones that are used most often for arrays, strings, and objects, and understand them at both languages, and then I'm gonna create a series of clips explaining them on the two different languages, and then the video is gonna be the explanation of them side by side with the syntax and what they do. Actually, it doesn't matter. And maybe I'll put it in yellow here. And I think that's it. Maybe tuples as well, but tuples I don't use that often. So, and I'm thinking about whether or not to do all of these methods on one video because I don't want the video to get too long. What I'm thinking about to do eventually, after I finish this playlist, I'm probably gonna take all the clips for these methods and then I'm gonna upload them separately with the name of each method and put side by side. I think that's gonna be good. I'm also thinking about maybe creating a TikTok to post this kind of videos, but I'm on the fence about that because I don't like TikTok. Yeah, so let me start with the arrays. See if I can find the methods here. Okay, these are all the methods. Filter map, reduce. I think I'll do them in order, one by one. So I have to think about, oh, I'm gonna probably I also had to install node modules to explain in the previous video how it works. Yeah, so I think I will do one by one, and I'm gonna put them here. And I don't think I need anything more than that. I think I was thinking about taking a picture of each one in the documentation, but I don't think that's necessary because I'm gonna have the code already for the explanation. But maybe I will use pictures as well. I want to make as fast as possible to not waste people's time. Oh, and the thing that is gonna be annoying about this is explaining the copy stuff. I have to think about that as well. Because some methods you make a copy of the original one, and other methods you modify the original one. That's annoying. I think I'm gonna close this stuff. And maybe I'll put it in favorites. I guess that's the list of all the methods here, I think. I mean, maybe not. Yeah, now I don't know if I should, because maybe I can talk about NumPy and then just put these NumPy methods as well as the built-in ones, because I already talked about libraries. But I think it would be better if I just put the built-in methods of each of them. Append is push. So that one I know that there is this buffer info never seen. Oh, I think extends work in Python.
Array.prototype.concat. The concat method is used to merge two or more arrays. This method does not change the existing arrays, but instead returns a new array. Syntax. Parameters. Value n optional. Arrays n/or values to concatenate into a new array. If all value n parameters are omitted, concat returns a shallow copy of the existing array on which it is called. See the description below for more details. Description. The concat method creates a new array. The array will first be populated by the elements
Oh,
in the
maybe I
object.
should make a video about shallow copy and deep copy as well. But I feel like this is a more advanced thing, so it's probably better to leave at the end before the JavaScript nuances videos. I think I'm gonna write down here so I think about later. Because the thing is, I don't know if I want to waste time on this kind of stuff. I want to get to the point where I'm gonna make videos about blockchain as fast as possible. I think I'm gonna start making videos about Solidity first because it's low-hanging fruit. But I'm thinking about incorporate. Yeah, the plan for now is to create the blog and try to incorporate NFTs into the blog. So try to start making stuff that incorporates Web3 with real utility, and then maybe try to develop a product after that. And ideally at that point, I would be making videos about Web3 as well. So I'll use this live stream to study. Then I will try to compress all the information into the other channel. And by doing that, I will learn a lot in the process. And I will use the information that I learned to help me build the products as well. So as I build the products, I'm going to learn as well. And then it becomes a virtuous cycle. So I'm trying to get to that point as fast as possible. So, and that's why I'm debating whether or not to do these videos here.
The array will first be populated by the elements in the object on which it is called. Then, for each argument, its value will be concatenated into the array. For normal objects or primitives, the argument itself will become an element of the final array. For arrays or array-like objects with the property symbol .isConcat spreadable set to a truthy value, each element of the argument will be independently added to the final array.
Yeah, I'm going to copy the code anyway. And I'm going to leave a comment here It's shallow copy. So I remember later. It would be good if it was possible to change the color of this. Maybe I should search for this. File preferences, color theme. This is not what I want, I think. I guess I will, yeah. Because the problem, if I give the same name, then it's gonna be hard later. I guess I'll create a file here. Not a file, a folder. So I'm gonna study one by one, and then the ones that I think are very similar, I'm gonna put on mutual. And the ones that are not, I'm not gonna put it there. Oh, and I should also copy the names there, I think, for all of them. I'll put this on the other. I'll do this later after I stream. I'm just gonna study one by one for now. And then I also have to decide whether or not should talk about uh, NumPy and other libraries if there is a similar method. Maybe I'll briefly mention. I think I'll talk about it because I could just briefly explain how it works and then say that there isn't a built-in method for that, but then you can use a library. I think that's better. I think. Okay. So I think the question is does extend create a shallow copy? And I think the answer is no. And I think that's the difference between them. But I think is pretty much the same thing. So I'm gonna put as yellow the ones that are similar but not exactly the same. I'll change the color of this so that is not equal to that. Maybe I'll put gray here. And then the ones that are exactly the same, I'm gonna put as green, and the ones that doesn't exist on the other language, I'm just gonna leave blank or mark as red, I think. Yeah, what's the difference between concat and push? There's also join apparently. Okay, yeah, so that's the difference. Concat creates the copy and then push just returns the length. So when you're using concat, is because you want the original array to stay the same, and then you're gonna make some other variable equal to that. And when you're using push, you just want to add to the modify the original one. I think that's for strings, so I'm gonna look this later. Yeah, so extend doesn't create a shallow copy. I think I'll look it up the JavaScript ones first, and then I'll see if there's a Python equivalent. I think that is better that way. So search for the Python equivalent on base, because the JavaScript documentation is easier to understand, I think. And there's the list here, the Python is a little bit confusing. I think that's all the methods. If it isn't, it's probably not worth it to put the other ones in the video anyways. So I'm gonna close this. Append is probably the same as push, and it returns the length of the list and doesn't copy. So I'm gonna look it up. What is the difference between extend and append in Python? Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, join is for strings. We're converting an array into a string. Oh, it does a shallow copy. No, that's Angular. Yeah, but this doesn't say if you modify the original one, what happens to the then you probably lose the reference as well. But maybe that's the difference between shallow copy and deep copy.
Copy, shallow and deep copy operations. Source code, lib/copy.py. Assignment statements in Python do not copy objects, they create bindings between a target and an object. For collections that are mutable or contain mutable items, a copy is sometimes needed so one can change one copy without changing the other. This module provides generic shallow and deep copy operations, explained below. Interface summary. Copy.copy, x. Return a shallow copy of x. Copy.deep copy, x, memo. Return a deep copy of x. Exception copy.error. Raised for module-specific errors. The difference between shallow and deep copying is only relevant for compound objects, objects that contain other objects, like lists, or class instances. A shallow copy constructs a new compound object and then, to the extent possible, inserts references into it to the objects found in the original. A deep copy constructs a new compound object and then, recursively, inserts copies into it of the objects found in the original. Two problems often exist with deep copy operations that don't exist with shallow copy operations. Recursive objects, compound objects that, directly or indirectly, contain a reference to themselves, may cause a recursive loop. Because deep copy copies everything it may copy too much, such as data which is intended to be shared between copies. The deep copy function avoids these problems by keeping a memo dictionary of objects already copied during the current copying pass, and letting user-defined classes override the copying operation or the set of components copied. This module does not copy types like module, method, stack trace, stack frame, file, socket, window, or any similar types. It does copy functions and classes, shallow and deeply, by returning the original object unchanged. This is compatible with the way these are treated by the pickle module. Shallow copies of dictionaries can be made using dict.copy, and of lists by assigning a slice of the entire list. For example, copied list equals original list, smiley face. Classes can use the same interfaces to control copying that they use to control pickling. See the description of module pickle for information on these methods. In fact, the copy module uses the registered pickle functions from the copyreg module. In order for a class to define its own copy implementation, it can define special methods copy and deep copy. The former is called to implement the shallow copy operation.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with this answer here that it isn't copied, but I'm not 100% sure. That's the thing. It's saying that some of the answers, the main answer is saying that it creates a reference, but the other one is saying that it doesn't copy. So I guess the difference is it doesn't create new values, it just references to the other one. But it's still a little bit confusing for me. Whatever. I'm gonna move on to this one.
Array.prototype.copy within. The copy within method shallow copies part of an array to another location in the same array and returns it without modifying its length. Syntax. Parameters. Target. 0 based index at which to copy the sequence to, converted to an integer. Negative index counts back from the end of the array, if target. If target. If target equals array.length, nothing is copied. If target is positioned after start after normalization, copying only happens until the end of array.length. In other words, copy within never extends the array. Start optional. 0 based index at which the copy within method shallow copies part of an array to another location in the same array and returns it without modifying its length. Syntax. Parameters. Target.
That's a little bit confusing as well. So there's a shallow copy of an array to another location, the same array. So the first one is the element that is gonna be replaced. The second one is the element that is gonna do the shallow copy. But what is the third thing here? Oh, so the third one is the space, the amount. So I guess yeah, the second is the beginning of the shallow copy, and the third argument is the end of the shallow copy. And now I'm gonna see if there's a Python equivalent to this.
The copy within method works like C and C++ memov and is a high-performance method to shift the data of an array. This especially applies to the type *e method of the same name. The sequence is copied and pasted as one operation. The pasted sequence will have the copied values even when the copy and paste region overlap. The copy within method is a mutating method. It does not alter the length of this, but it will change the content of this and create new properties or delete existing properties, if necessary. The copy within method preserves empty slots. If the region to be copied from is sparse, the empty slots corresponding new indices are deleted and also become empty slots. The copy within method is generic. It only expects this value to have a length property and integer keyed properties. Although strings are also array-like, this method is not suitable to be applied on them, as strings are immutable. Examples. Using copy within. Console.log 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Copy within -2 / 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Console.log 1, 2.
Yeah, I don't think Python has an equivalent to this. Oh, I should write on the file as well. I should write on both files. That's Python doesn't have the same methods, but has a similar. That way it's gonna be easier when I make the videos because I can open the file and just see the comments, obviously. I don't know why I didn't think about that in the beginning. But creating the folder is also helpful for visualizing. Because I think I will start off with the ones that both of the languages have, and then I'll move on to the other ones that only have similar methods, but uh, that are not the same, exactly the same. Maybe I should write the NumPy variation as well. Oh, it's concatenate. In case I decide to talk about it. I think it might be good because then I get the chance to talk about this small thing here and explain how it works. I'm just gonna put that, I'm not gonna put anything there because I don't think there is an equivalent. I was searching for this to see if there is something like NumPy or pandas or another method to do this, but I think it doesn't exist. There's obviously a way to do that, but then it's probably more complicated and you have to do several different steps or create an algorithm for that. Yeah, we're just gonna move on to the next one. I think this one Python has an equivalent probably.
Array.prototype.every.
Let me close the other ones.
The every method tests whether
Python, the extend method is used to add elements of one list to another list. It modifies the original list by adding the elements of the second list to the end of it. Here's an example of using the extend method in Python. In JavaScript, the concat method is used to create a new array by merging two or more arrays together. It does not modify the original arrays. Yeah, so it modifies the original list. Okay, yeah, that's the difference. So extend modifies the original and concat doesn't. Oh, maybe I should ask ChatGPT an equivalent method for Java scripts. Copy within methods.
the every method tests whether all elements in the array pass the test implemented by the provided function. It returns a Boolean value. Syntax. / arrow function.
Maybe a good thing to do is to copy the description as well of each one. rv.js. Yeah, this one is pretty easy to understand. So it returns true or false, I think.
Try it. Syntax. / arrow function every element equals / parameters. Callback fn. This arg optional. Description. The every.
Fuck. Oh, so it receives a callback function. It says that it should return, but here I'm not sure if it returns anything. This function returns something. Our functions allow you to have an implicit return. Values are returned without having to use the return keyword. Okay, so it does return. It works when there is one online statement in the function body. Yeah, but maybe I should briefly talk about this, but I'm not gonna explain arrow functions. I think I'm gonna explain them later once I'm talking about the nuances of JavaScript. So I'm just gonna write this down. The current element being processed in the array. Okay, so the callback has to have the argument, which is the current element being processed. This is something I was thinking about doing with animations, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it work because my GPU is not strong enough to create the animations. Initially, I thought I was doing something wrong with DaVinci Resolve, but after trying a bunch of times in a bunch of different ways to create keyframes, because in DaVinci Resolve, if you go into you put the thing here whenever you wanna create an animation, and then you go in the Fusion page, and then it brings this thing here, and then you can add stuff on here, and this thing here is the keyframes. So whenever you have something, you can click on a little diamond on the side, and it's gonna initialize a key animation, and then you click at the end of the where you want the end of the animation to be, and then you click on the little diamond again, and then it creates animation. But maybe I am doing something wrong, but I think I tried a bunch of different times and I couldn't make it work because the computer breaks at some point. It can't render this stuff, which is unfortunate. But I was thinking about creating an animation where it shows the array and then each element getting inside of the method, the function, so that is easier to understand that because I remember having a hard time with this in the beginning where I couldn't wrap my head around that this thing here is gonna become each element in each iteration because it's a little bit more abstract, so it's harder to understand. And it's difficult to explain as well without having the visualization. So maybe what I'm gonna do is make a series of different clips and then highlight each one with the arrow sequentially. That's probably a better way. Maybe I can make it happen. So where I highlight one and then make an arrow to this one, and then I just copy the animation and do several different clips like this. Yeah, that might be a good alternative. The index of the current element being processed in the array. And so this one I think is not mandatory. The array was called upon. Yeah, I don't understand this. Because it's saying that those are the parameters, but then in the example, it only has the function, so. Yeah, and it looks like the functions of the. Yeah, I guess these are the parameters of the callback function. But it would be good if they did example with the parameters of the callback function. And I don't want to spend time. Maybe I can just press F12 here to look at the source code and understand what are the parameters, try to figure out what are the parameters of the callback function. Yeah. I think it doesn't matter Maybe I should be taking pictures of this just so it's evident. I don't know. Because people can look it up by themselves. I think the main value and the main point of the video is just to have something that is simple, straight to the point, and that compares both Python and JavaScript. Because I think and this was something that I was thinking some time ago as well, that is very inefficient because I couldn't find a decent explanation for this. I think the reason why it happened this way is just because of history and the way that human beings connect with each other and the way that things evolve. But there isn't a very clear explanation for the syntax of the programs should be different. And I understand that the compiler and the rules are going to change the way that the language works, and there's going to be trade-off in optimizations for each thing. But that doesn't mean that the syntax couldn't be the same. So a very clear example is functions, and I think it's very easy to understand where the function to make a function in Python, you use the def keyword, but in JavaScript you use the function keyword. And in other languages you use other keywords. So I can't see a clear reason for having the syntax be different. If the syntax was the same for all of the languages, people would be able to learn all the languages much faster because you just need to learn one syntax and then that's it. So I was thinking the other day, why haven't people created something that only translates the syntax from one language to the other? And I think the answer might be because it might be too hard because it's very similar to creating a compiler. The only difference would be that the compiler actually translates it into a low-level language, and this would be just translating the syntax, so it would be like a more simple version of compiler. And I think I've heard about this before. I think it's called transpiler, but I'm not really sure about it, which is the translation between TypeScript and JavaScript. So I was just questioning why doesn't this exist for all the languages, and then people just learn one language and then they learn all the other languages. And then obviously it would still take time to understand all the depth of knowledge that exists in order to make up the meaning of the words and the differences and trade-offs between them. But at least they would be able to code a lot faster. To get to the point where they can do things a lot faster in all the languages, and it's just less stuff to study. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make this playlist as well. Is just to be able to show to people like it's all the same shit actually. There's some differences here and there, but it's actually the same thing for the most part. And the only difference is on the fundamentals of the rules and the trade-offs in the lower level of the translation of the concepts into binary bits. It's on the same. No, it's a different one. So
Array. Iterative methods. Many array methods take a callback function as an argument. The callback function is called sequentially and at most once for each element in the array, and the return value of the callback function is used to determine the return value of the method. They all share the same signature. Method, callback fn, this arg. Where callback fn takes three arguments. Element. The current element being processed in the array. Index. The index of the current element being processed in the array. Array. The array that the method was called upon. What callback fn is expected to return depends on the array method that was called. The this arg argument, defaults to undefined, will be used as the this value when calling callback fn. The this value ultimately observable by callback fn is determined according to the usual rules. If callback fn is non-strict, primitive this values are wrapped into objects, and undefined /null is substituted with global this. The this arg argument is irrelevant for any callback fn defined with an arrow function, as arrow functions don't have their own this binding. All iterative methods are copying and generic, although they behave differently with empty slots. The following methods are iterative.
what's the point of this? I don't understand. This value ultimately observable by callback fn is determined according to the usual rules. It's non-restricted, non-strict primitive. These values are wrapped into objects. And on the final is substituted with global this. Okay, so if you're not using strict mode, then this will be the global object. But why would you want to do that? Yeah, maybe I can see some applications, or maybe you want to use the window object for something after you do something with the array. But I'm not sure. I think I'm gonna ask ChatGPT, see if I get any interesting answers for this. Let me think about a good way to formulate this question. Why does array methods in JavaScript have this arg? I think it's just do, but I'm not really sure. Probably doesn't matter. Should ask for ChatGPT. Or I think maybe I will use this. Callback functions. Python has an equivalent method for copy within method in JavaScript. In Python, the method is called copy, and is a built-in function. Also, copy is the same as copy within. I thought it was different because it was just copying the entire thing, but maybe it's the same. So I'll go back and study this one more in depth, and then I will just put there in Python. List type. It is used to create a shallow copy of a list. The copy, yeah, I think it is slightly different though, but I will put the code anyway, because I'll probably talk about it. The copy method in Python, I'm gonna put them side by side and then explain the differences. The copy method in Python takes no arguments and returns a new list that is a shallow copy of the original list. It does not modify the original list. Here's an example of using the copy method in Python. JavaScript, the copy within method is used to copy a sequence of elements within an array to a different position in the same array. Returns. Okay. As you can see, the copy method in Python creates a new list that is a shallow copy of the original list, while copy within method JavaScript modifies the original array by copying elements within it to a different position. What's going on? And maybe I should be using ChatGPT for this code examples. Is simple stuff, so I think the chance of it making a mistake is low. And it's more efficient than searching in Google, I think. Yeah, but I'll just get this one for this. Probably was gonna use ChatGPT for the other ones. know. I'm not gonna study this now. I don't think that is that important.
The following methods are iterative. Every, filter, find index,
I'm
find
gonna
last,
close this one as
find.
well.
The every method is an iterative method. It calls a provided callback fn function once for each element in an array, until the callback fn returns a false value. If such an element is found, every immediately returns false and stops iterating through the array. Otherwise, if callback fn returns a truthy value for all elements, every returns true. Every acts like the for all quantifier in mathematics. In particular, for an empty array, it returns true. It is vacuously true that all elements of the empty set satisfy any given condition. Callback fn is invoked only for array indexes which have assigned values. It is not invoked for empty slots in sparse arrays. Every does not mutate the array on which it is called, but the function provided as callback fn can. Note, however, that the length of the array is saved before the first invocation of callback fn. Therefore, the every method is generic. It only expects this value to have a length property and integer keyed properties. Examples: testing size of all array elements. Function is big enough, element, index, array, return check if one array is a subset of another array. Using every on sparse arrays. Console.log 1 3.every x equals undefined / true console.log 2.
No, move on to the next one. I think it's enough for this one. Filter, I know that both of them have. JavaScript, the this keyword refers to the context when a callback function is used in array methods such as for each map or filter. This value within the callback function may not be what you expected it to be. This arg parameter allows you to specify the value of this within the callback function. Oh, I guess I understand now. So if you want to use this, you're going to lose context because it's a callback function. So the scope is going to be different. So that this arg allows you to keep the context of the main function, I think. That's probably what's going on. Can be any value that you want the this keyword to refer to within the callback function. For example, consider the following code. This code, the sayname function is called for each element in the names array using for each. However, when the sayname function is called, this value within the function refers to the global object, not the object that contains the sayname function. To fix this, you can use the desired parameter to specify the value of this within the callback function. Here's how you can do that. Now, when the sayname function is called, yeah, there is no sayname function here. That's the thing. Oh no, it's here, inside here. Yeah, so it's calling for each on this, and then calling the function inside of this object. Okay. It's called the this value within the function refers to the object that contains the sayname function, which is this here. So you want to test for this, but then, yeah. So the this keyword is gonna reference to this because the callback is being called in the context of the object. But if you use this arg, it's gonna reference to the global scope, which is this one. I understand that. I think I understand that. But I'm not gonna talk about this, I think, because it's too advanced, and I have to talk about scope and the this keywords, and I'm gonna only make videos about that later. Yeah, here. Maybe I'll briefly mention, yeah, but I don't feel like going back to the previous video to explain. So I'm not even gonna mention that, I think. Just for my sake.
Array.prototype.filter. The filter method creates a shallow copy of a portion of a given array, filtered down to just the elements from the given array that pass the test implemented by the provided function. Syntax. // arrow function filter, element, equals /*. slash filter element index equals slash filter element index array equals slash asterisk slash callback function filter callback fn filter callback fn. This arg slash inline callback function filter function element slash star slash filter. The filter method creates a shallow copy of a portion of a given array, filtered down to just the elements from the given array that pass the test implemented by the provided function. Syntax slash.
So maybe it is different than Python, because Python, I'm not sure if it creates a shallow copy or not. It returns an iterator. Yeah, I guess it does, because I converted. If you convert, then you get a new list, so it's pretty similar. But it's returning an iterator and not a list. You have to use the list function to convert. So that's the difference. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it like this. I'm also forgetting to write here. Oh, I didn't look for an every equivalent. Okay, so it's all the equivalent. Yeah, I think I'm on the wrong page because I'm only looking at the methods in the array, but in Python most of the stuff is gonna be functions. This is another thing that I really don't understand well, and I'm probably gonna study in the future. Is why the decision to make it a function instead of a method. Yeah, but it definitely has to do with the design of the thing. Because now that I think about it, yeah, it's the method is when you have the class and then you have the function inside of the class. But then the functions are separated in Python, so yeah, but obviously I have to study a lot more to really understand the nuances behind the decisions. Yeah, put here. Yeah, I wonder if I should talk about this difference that I should probably mention this because although they are the same, they are not really the same because one is a method of the array and the other one is a function. So even though the result is the same, is slightly different. So I think I'm gonna mention that, but I'm not gonna explain it because I have to do the video about classes to explain that. I'm not gonna find the difference between them. I think maybe I should use ChatGPT actually. The whole function returns true if all elements in the given iterable are true. If not, it returns false. And I also think I forgot to put the equivalence there. But in this one, you just pass the array or any iterable. In the other one, you pass a callback function. Python the all function returns true if all elements of an iterable are true, and false if elements are false. JavaScript, the every method is similar to all. In Python, it tests whether all elements in the array pass the test implemented by the provided function. For example, both all in Python and every in JavaScript return a Boolean value indicating whether all elements in the iterable are true or pass the test in the case of every. However, every in JavaScript allows you to specify a function to test each element of the array, whereas all in Python simply checks the truthiness of each element. Yeah, so that's the main difference, I think. So I'm gonna put them as yellow. And the time's up. I'm gonna stop here. I have stuff to do off stream. I'm gonna continue to do this stuff off stream. And I think I'm gonna do for arrays, strings, objects, and I think that's about it. And I'm probably gonna use ChatGPT to help me. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do this today. I might come back tomorrow and be at the same place and stream tomorrow. But yeah, maybe I'll do some off stream, and then tomorrow I'll continue to do this. If I have finished this by tomorrow, then I'm gonna work on editing the other videos here that I have online.